The Israeli offensive in the Gaza Strip shows no signs of letting up. Israeli troops have uncovered more than a dozen cross-border tunnels used by Hamas. Fox News reporter John Huddy is live in Gaza. John, what's the latest?
Well, Judge, the ground offensive continues this morning here. Remember, it's very early in the morning, past 4:30 in the morning. We're going into day 3 of the ground offensive, day 13 of overall Operation Protective Edge. We've heard and seen some action to the north, some explosions in the distance, artillery fire, which indicates that, again, forces are pushing in across the Israeli-Gaza border there and also to the east. Now, overnight, yesterday, there was a lot of action, as we saw both here and also to the north. Yesterday afternoon, and we're hearing some explosions, and in the distance actually we're seeing a flare coming down, which indicates that possibly something is about to happen over there. In terms of what's going on the border there, the IDF, Israeli Defense Forces, are going after and really rooting up the network of underground tunnels that Hamas has been using for the transport and storage of rockets. And now, as we know, they've been going into Israel. 2 militants were killed on the Israeli side when they got into a firefight, and they were dressed up as Israeli soldiers. And then a third was also killed after getting into a firefight, and Israeli forces found on him handcuffs and tranquilizers, indicating that possibly he was going to try to abduct Israelis. And that's been a huge concern because a lot of these tunnels come out very close to what are called kibbutzes, which are Israeli villages and communities very close to the Israeli-Gaza border. And I'm just going to keep an eye on what's going on behind us. There hasn't been too much action tonight in our location. That was not the case yesterday morning, evening, overnight hours into the morning. We were just getting pounded around here with airstrikes. Obviously, the Israeli military going after Hamas, either tunnel locations or rocket launch sites. Since we've been here the last 8 days, there have been a lot of rockets launched from this area, which is not unusual, Judge, because Hamas, as we've seen, has been firing rockets in civilian areas. So there are a lot of open fields near our location where rockets have been fired out of, and that seems to be where they've been going after, Judge.
All right, John, thanks for being with us so early in the morning over there, and take care of yourself. On with me now, the ranking Democrat on the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Congressman Eliot Engel. All right, Congressman, this week you said America needs to support Israel in its fight against Hamas, who you liken, by the way, to the 9/11 terrorists. Do you think that the president, by his behavior in recent days of playing pool and going to fundraisers, cracking jokes, is doing enough for Israel at this time?
Well, the president has said that the United States stands by Israel. The president said it to me just 2 days ago. He said that no country would tolerate or should tolerate these attacks, these missile attacks, day in and day out for months and years, raining in on their citizens. And of course, the Iron Dome has been very helpful in terms of saving Israeli lives, and President Obama has fully funded the Iron Dome. So I think, you know, the one thing, Judge, when people say Congress can't agree on anything, the one thing we all agree on, and there's strong bipartisan support, it's support for Israel, because we understand that Israel shares our values and it's the only democracy in the Middle East.
You know, but the president's comment that he's deeply concerned about the civilian casualties in Hamas, given the fact that we now believe that Hamas is the one that's actually putting civilians in those sites, it seems to suggest that maybe Israel is at fault here. I mean, are you convinced that, other than his saying something, that this president is committed to Israel?
Well, I believe he's committed to Israel. Look, the Hamas terrorists, and let's remember, Hamas is a terrorist organization.
I agree.
This isn't two adversaries, two states fighting. This is a terrorist organization trying to kill as many Israelis as it can. It doesn't recognize Israel's right to exist. It has the types of views that are an anathema to those of us that live in free countries. It uses its people as human shields. If there are people being killed in Gaza, it's because they build these missiles and bombs in the midst of schools and mosques.
I think we all know that. But what should America be doing now?
Well, I think America should stand squarely by Israel, and I think we are.
How? How are we doing that?
Well, Israel, as you know, is the #1 U.S. aid recipient, and we give Israel more than $3 billion of foreign aid every single year. The Iron Dome, which is protecting Israeli lives. It's why there's only been 2 Israeli casualties.
But you know what's interesting is with Iraq, and I don't mean to, you know, what's going on in Iraq, Obama sent over 600, military guys. Not doing that with Israel and Hamas when we all agree it's a terrorist organization.
Well, I don't think Israel necessarily needs the military guys. Look, I think if there's been one constant that we've had through Democratic presidents, Republican presidents, Democratic Congresses, Republican Congresses, Israel's our ally and our friend.
Well, let's hope
I
so.
think that's been a constant, thank God, through the years.
Let's switch gears to the Ukraine. You were there just a few months ago. Critics say, again, the president isn't putting enough pressure to put Putin over and to get some access to the crash site, et cetera, et cetera. What say you?
Well, Putin's a bad guy. We knew that before. We certainly know it now.
Well, so if we knew that before, why did he do the reset button thing?
Well, I think he hoped. Look. Even
Hope springs eternal.
Even President Bush said when he looked into Putin's eyes, he saw his soul. When I look into Putin's eyes, I see 3 letters: KGB.
All right. The Obama State Department, by the way, and let me just stay with Ukraine for a second. How do you think we can go in and get some of those bodies that are being ignored and you know, in the heat that they're disintegrating for the one American who's there and all of the others?
Well, I think, of course, we have to cooperate with the international community in doing this, but I think we need to galvanize the international community. I think what Putin is doing in Ukraine is obviously he wants to resurrect the Soviet Union again.
Really?
And I think what he's doing in Ukraine is certainly against what the people of Ukraine want. The European Union finally got smart and enabled Ukraine, Georgia, Moldova to form a partnership with them for eventual entry into the EU. And I think that we need to show Putin that we stand with the people of Ukraine, and I would give the government of Ukraine military equipment and allow them to be able to defend themselves.
Real fast, do you agree with the statement by Josh Earnest this week that the world is that Obama has substantially improved the tranquility of the global community? Was he kidding?
I don't know. Listen.
Do you agree with it or not? It's yes or no. Come on, Elliot. This is my friend.
Sounds like a judge. I don't know. Look, I think the president is doing the best he can. I think that we need to get tougher with Putin. We're negotiating with Iran. Sanctions brought Iran to its knees. Sanctions needs to be. We need to have more sanctions to bring Putin to his knees.
All right. Well, your lips to God's ears. We'll see. Congressman Elliot Engel, thank you so much for being with us. And coming up, the world in crisis, America's security at risk. And this administration doesn't even seem to know who the enemy is. That's next.